You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series, which syndicates for the A-List Online. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and the interview subject I have coming up for you is from Adelaide band Colibrium. His name is Matthew Mitris, and he's the guitarist in the outfit. The reason for the conversation is to promote the band's brand new single, an excellent song by the name of Capture. So let's have a listen to what Matthew has to say. Here we go.
I like to think of ourselves as a fairly professional outfit. The website and everything has just recently been updated, all for the release. So, yeah, I don't really like screwing around too much because I too have a son. I'm working. I got minimal amount of time to do things properly.
Yeah. Well, no, you should be commended for what you've done here because it's a really good start, and it also gives people you're not going to disappoint anybody, I don't think, and also too your presence actually is a good visual match to your music, which is something else bands don't seem to have figured out.
Thanks for that.
Well, you'd be surprised. You hear some music and it's it might sound like you guys, but then they've gone for more like a skater image or something, or you can tell they're trying to emulate another band, and it's like, no, sorry, it's cool. I mean, I'm like you, man. I'm time poor, and I can only pick and I've had to be picky because I just don't have the energy to do everything these days.
I know what you mean.
But when I saw you had everything together, and the song's good too, man. The song is real good, actually. It's to me, it sounds like, okay, it's not that it sounds like this, but it reminds me of Protest the Hero, Butterfly Effect, Carnival, and something really North American but cool like Alter Bridge. That's the vibe.
Well, I do know the latter three bands that you just mentioned, and Alter Bridge is one of my favourites, so that's good to hear. Actually, the reason I joined this band, it's kind of a long story, but Chris as a singer is amazing. I haven't found anyone like him. I think he's one of the best rock singers in Australia, and I think that's saying something. He's that good.
Okay.
I was very impressed with him. He's got the falsetto, he's got the range, and he's got amazing power. And then I heard Christian, the lead guitarist. If you've heard some of the other songs, his lead work is melodic and beautiful, and just it's great to listen to.
Yeah, it is all there to your point. It's a nice balance and mix between everything. It's not like the bass is buried like it is so often with a lot of you don't want to say indie stuff, a lot of indie rock and metal stuff where the bass is just a bit of an afterthought. I can actually hear what's going on there. The drumming sounds great.
When you say indie, you mean just not on a label, is what I'm assuming.
Exactly, spot on. Yep, exactly. Yep. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing, and I'm glad it resonates to a point. And you mentioned that Carried is the name of the new EP that's going to be released this year. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Haven't got an official release date for you yet, but it will be coming out unofficially in the next couple of months.
Okay, and the other cuts, they sound like the one that you've sent through to me. Sorry, I should have the name of it here and available because I was just listening to it a moment ago. Where are we? There we go. Capture.
Yes, that's the first release.
Yeah, so it's the rest of the EP is going to have a similar vibe to that, or have you got some different stuff on
there? We have a bit of a mixture. The final song will be a 7-minute epic, which everybody is extremely happy about how that turned out. What else have we got? We've got a slightly heavier song called I Don't Need You, which has been played throughout in previous shows. That's kind of a crowd pleaser now. And a couple of other special ones too, but the one that everybody's really excited for is Carried.
Yeah, cool. I can understand why.
Carried by the word.
Yeah. And it's when you say everybody's excited about it, these are mates and other bands or so that you've, or the band you guys yourself that are excited about the way people are going to react to it. I take it.
Yeah, I think it just turned out really well. As I said, like most of the stuff was written before I joined the band, so when I came in, I heard it and I was just really impressed. But Christian went to mix the EP with Forrester Savell, who's done countless massive bands. So he mixed it with him there, and they were both super impressed at how it turned out. Bass sounds good, the vocals are beautiful, everything just sits really well, and the song flows and it has some special moments.
Cool. Who else has Mr. Savell done? Who else has he mixed or
Forrester
produced?
Savell, he's done Carnival, Dead Letter Circus, they're the two main huge bands that I can think of right now. He's done 12 Foot Ninja, like a lot of big bands.
Yeah, there you go. So, yeah, you're keeping the right sort of company. And
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you need to do. This is what I talk about with not for the podcast series, but for younger bands in particular, and bands that I'm a covers musician, okay, so I volunteer that now, as I think long-time listeners of the podcast know, and consequently I do meet a lot of musicians and a lot of bands, and usually I'm at a gig or at a party or like a wedding or something like that, and a young fella will come up and say, oh yeah, I'm in a band, and they might be 19 or 20, and it's like, oh, okay, tell me what your strategy is, and I'm by no means the alpha and omega on what and how to do things. God, I'm technically a failed originals musician, given that I was in Velveteen and then Cross Trigger, and nothing really ever came of it. But then didn't really try that hard anyway. I must volunteer and confess that as well. But it's meeting and greeting these people like Forrester Savell that needs to be done, and fairly early on when you guys have gotten into the you got the forming and storming phase that you guys are going through right about now, and you meet these people, and it's not just the sounds that they can help you with, it's the contacts, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it was a funny story that Christian told us when he was mixing the EP. Forrester plays indoor cricket, and Christian had never played at all. So he asked him, because he didn't have a member playing that night, are you able to fill in? And Christian's like, sure. And then he ended up meeting the Dead Letter Circus guys, which is pretty interesting, because they were playing on his team or against him or something like that. So you never know what's going to happen. You just serendipity right there.
Yeah, serendipity. But if you make yourself by making yourself, giving yourself an opportunity to be in the presence of people like that, that's how it works. Okay, it's not like one of those things where you're sitting down one night and you decide to send an email to the media contact address on, Des Fafara from Coal Chamber and what's his other band, Devil Driver. He's doing a lot of management these days. I've only found this out in the last couple of months because it's not really out there. But when you're working with these people, if you've got the stuff that you guys have got, it's going to open up the door to other people. And it's going to happen. You talk about serendipity, but it's going to happen in the most unlikely of ways, to your point. But you've got to put yourself on the race to be able to do that. And yeah, that means spending money. It means making sure that really, let's ask this question now then. There's 5 of you, okay, which is usually 5 people. If you had to go on a tour bus tomorrow, no, not tomorrow, in a month's time, you had some time to prepare for it, would you all get along?
Would we all get along? Yes, it would. That's the good thing. There's no point in being in a band if you can't get along with your band members. It's just going to fall apart pretty quickly.
Yeah, indeed. God, there are tales.
Luckily for us, we have no issues there.
Yeah, the tales are rife, aren't there, of bands getting together and lasting, say, a 4 or 5 week tour or something like that, and only lasting 2 weeks or so of that tour because they just can't stand each other. I don't know whether have you seen that digital tour bus thing that's on YouTube?
No, what's that all about?
So I think it's called DTB, but Digital Tour Bus, and a whole heap of bands very similar to you guys actually, take Digital Tour Bus, or whoever is they're not narrating it, the band are narrating it, but they take these people who produce Digital Tour Bus through the tour bus. That's what they do. So they show you where their cornflakes are kept and where the undies are held pegged up to dry off after a show and all this stuff, man. And you really feel the sense of claustrophobia, I've got to say, associated with long-time touring.
A lot of these big bands, they tell you that it's not a glamorous job. Like, all the touring and the traveling is not the fun part. You get that 1 hour, 2 hours on stage, that's the good thing. But everything else is just work. It really is work.
Yeah. I remember speaking to Levi Benton from Miss May I. He's a tremendous fella, actually. And I said, what you really are isn't a musician. You're a professional traveller, aren't you? And he goes, dude, yeah, you get it, don't you? You really understand it. And there was another... That's
what I've heard too.
Yeah, think about it. It's especially on a financial front, touring is really is the key pillar of revenue. So it's
as far as merchandise is probably your best source of income, I would say. If you're selling out, then you're probably doing all right. But I think just being able to have things to sell is probably helpful for the smaller bands for sure.
Now, that was the only, it's not a criticism, so please don't take it as that, but I could be wrong here, but I didn't notice that if someone wanted to purchase a T-shirt or a physical copy of your material on your website, there wasn't a link there. I could be wrong, so correct me, please.
You are correct, and the criticism is taken to heart.
Please don't take it as such, I mean, you've got everything else.
That's all good. That's all good. We are working on that. That's another thing. It costs a bit more money, and we've got to figure out the logistics of how it will work, but it's in the works. Let's just say that for now.
Yeah, okay. Gotcha. Have you got some cool ideas for T-shirts?
Yeah, it's hard to say when I haven't released the artwork yet, but there's definitely some cool ideas.
Cool. Cool, yeah. Hey, let's switch subjects. Let's go to Adelaide, your hometown, or your town of residence, let's call it that. So it's, for an older fella like me, Adelaide was probably best known for Cold Chisel coming out of there, or at least Jimmy Barnes coming out of there, the Super Jesus. And now I've interviewed, along with yourself, Audio Rain and As I Destruct. Both bands are really good, actually. What are your comments on the state of the Adelaide hard rock scene?
I think there are some very good bands out there that need to be seen. People just need to trust that they will see a good show if they go out, but it's up to the bands to put on that good show. That's the thing. I have an issue with local acts saturating the market. So what I would say is, if you're going to put on a show, really put on a show, and then the fans will come out next time you're there. That's my opinion on it anyway.
Yeah. It's so it's a bit of one of those things where the bands need to communicate a little bit better with each other on socials, and then get to know each other through having a beer down at the pub and putting on some killer rock and roll and heavy metal shows. You think
that could help? I think putting in the extra money and effort into a show, like a light show, would be nice, because that's something for the fans. Making sure that you have good sound, like it's a complete package. I don't think you can let some of it go astray. Like, you need to put the effort in all areas. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, leave
like
no
when you have a
stone
big
unturned.
band coming. Yeah, when you have a big band coming here, they're putting a lot of money into that show. So the least you can do, if someone's going to pay their hard-earned money, you can put the effort in too. That's maybe not everyone agrees with me, but I think if you're going to put on a show, actually put on a show.
I couldn't agree more on that point there. It's very hard to entice people out of their living rooms, especially if they're in a similar position to you and I. We've got kids, potentially got a mortgage and other life commitments, and the last thing you want to do is go out and see a band doing their very best interpretation. And I love this band, by the way, but My Bloody Valentine, when they're not playing that sort of music. Okay, you want to see, you actually want to see the full-on Kiss-style rock show. That's what you want, but you of course take a lot less than that. But you actually want to see the band putting on some effort, rather than just have the 4 park hands that sort of change, with the beat of every bass drum or whatever it might be, because they're in sync with that. They got the microphone on the 4 park hands, and the red, green, blue, yellow, orange, or whatever it might be, light flickers and changes every once in a while. There's, I guess, in this day and age too, though, I know what it's like in Brisbane, but in Adelaide, mate, what's the live music scene like for originals bands? I mean, how many venues are there around that regularly put on shows?
The good ones, I'd say, there's probably Jive is really good. We've played there a few times. There's a new one opening up, which was Bowler's Live, which is going to be called Line Arts Factory.
Okay.
What else is there? The Gov is always awesome. That sounds great. So there's a few decent places, and then the Febby, obviously. Everybody loves the Febby. That'd be very nice to play there one day. But I think it's going pretty well. You just need to find the bands that you are really interested in, and follow them on social media so that you know when they're playing, all that good stuff.
I've got a theory, okay, and it's mainly driven by digital music consumption, the way we consume music these days, meaning that radios don't dictate a goddamn thing these days. It's personal preference, user preference. We listen to whatever we want, which consequently means that a lot of people are listening to a diverse array of genres, one after the other. For example, they might be listening to you guys, and the next artist that they might have on their playlist, randomly selected, Drake, or someone like that. So, what I'd love to see more of, and I haven't seen a lot, if any of it, really up here in Brisbane and the Gold Coast and Sunshine Coast, but a lot of loosely defined urban artists or hip hop artists doing shows with rock outfits. Because let me tell you, mate, there are a lot of hip hop and urban artists out there, and a lot of them do put on shows. But I think if we're just standing back a little bit and calling it live music, aka entertainment, there's a really big opportunity there that I just don't see a lot of people. They're not taking advantage of it yet, in my view. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's an interesting idea. I think if you were going to have a hip-hop artist mixing with a rock artist, for example, I would say have a live band playing with the hip-hop artist, and then they can do the rapping over the top and stuff like that. If you keep some of the live elements, I think that could be a really cool and interesting idea.
That's hard. That's the hard part to it, I think, because to your point, a lot of hip-hop artists do use just the turntable DJ and backing tracks. There are a few really good hip-hop style bands around, but then they tend to lean very heavily into modern jazz and funk, I notice, which is still cool, by the way. But yeah, I guess it's just, as I say, my comments are driven and motivated specifically by the way people consume music, and just to put on a show like that, just to see if it actually worked or not. I mean, nothing ventured, nothing gained, in other words.
No, I think that's a cool idea. There's nothing like live drums, though. So, I mean, every hip-hop song's going to have some drums. Why not chuck in a live kit if it's going to be there with a rock band anyway? I think that'd be all right.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's cool. So, so you've got this EP coming out. Provided this does for you what you'd like it to do for you, what have you got planned next?
We, as I said before, nothing official yet, but we will be playing, how much can I say? We'll be playing an Adelaide headline show.
Yep.
And we're trying to work out a Melbourne show and perhaps, I don't know yet, maybe Sydney, Brisbane. We're seeing how we go with that. If you have any contacts, let us know.
Yeah, look, there's a really good one here at Pushworth, actually, Michael Geeves. I've given, we'll talk about it after the interview's finished. But yeah, there's been a few bands that I've noticed that I've done the link, and they've come to Brisbane from far away as Perth, and you guys are about as far away as that in terms of the effort and that you'll need to put into flying and get everything over here. So yeah, mate, it can and it does happen. Yeah, so we'll talk about it after the interview. But yeah, I think to your point about playing live though, and then have you guys play? Rehearsing's one thing, but how often would you guys play live and get the opportunity to perform in Adelaide?
Last year we didn't have too many shows because we were just working on new material, but anytime there's a band that will suit what we do, say for example, I'll use Leprous because we played with them last year. If Leprous is coming to town, we will contact their management and we'll try and get on that show. Luckily we did because they're one of the best bands I've ever seen live. It was incredible. Yep. So we're always on the search and we'll try and get those support slots so you can possibly gain some new fans and just have an awesome time playing with these awesome bands.
Cool, mate. Cool.
So always keeping an eye on the scene.
Always keep an eye on the scene, indeed. What's the for people that are listening that are from Adelaide and they might have stumbled across the podcast, because it does happen, and they have no idea how to find out what live acts are on in Adelaide, and they want to take a sample of some of the originals live music that is played there. Is there a Facebook page or something like that they can go to?
I think Music SA is probably a good one to have a look at. They usually have a gig guide. Other thing I would do is check your local venues like Jive, and they'll have gig listings as well. So check out the good venues that we spoke about before, and you'll definitely be able to find some good bands playing live.
Sweet. Now, for those that are listening who want to reach out to you guys, listen to your music, badge you for some merchandise, that sort of thing, how can they do that?
I would say the best thing is to go to colibrium.com.au. It's like colour and equilibrium, colibrium.com.au. Same thing for Facebook, but everything is on our website. That's our hub.
What does that band name mean? Because when I was searching for you, I came across some fabrication or manufacturing business with the same name. So has it got an etheric or interesting?
I noticed that.
Yeah, you found it too. Yeah. So where does the name come from?
Christian and the original singer came up with that. They had differing opinions on different things, so they came up with the words colour and equilibrium and smashed them together. As far as I can tell, that's my best recollection of the name.
Cool, it works. It's memorable at least anyway. Gosh, with the amount
It's unique. I like that.
Yeah, well, look, I don't know how much material I get sent to me, but I do try to listen to most of it, believe it or not, just to, even at least once. I was driving along the other day and I was thinking, what was the name of the band that reached out to me? And then it came to me. I was driving in the car, which rarely happens. So there you go. You've got to take a win when you get one.
That's a good sign. Yeah.
Good sign. Mate, that's it. Great. Thanks for the chat. You have been listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series, which syndicates for the A-List Online. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and that interview subject you just listened to is Matthew Mitris from Adelaide outfit Colibrium. Thank you so much for listening.